Hello, this is CJ Hoyle. Today is Tuesday, August the 31st, 2021. And as the sun rises up over Big Rideau Lake, welcome to day 4 of my solo canoeing adventure on the Rideau Canal. The time is currently just after 6 a.m. and I spent the evening last night camped here on Colonel By Island on the front lawn of this old haunted house. I mean abandoned cottage. As I explained in yesterday's video, this building was built for the owner of the Yellow Cab Company in the United States, and it's been designated as a historic site, but it's pretty much just been left here to rot. Here's a look at the estate from the backside. There's an old tennis court, and as you can see, the building is quite overgrown. And back behind this building is the Parks Canada washroom building where I'm heading to get ready for the morning. And you may be disappointed to hear that I've avoided the temptation of climbing inside one of these old broken windows to go and explore the inside of this building. It really looks quite beautiful out on the lake this morning. So the time is now 6:50, and as you can see, I've got my campsite all packed up. The next step is to get the canoe in the water and load all my stuff into it. And so begins my day of paddling, and it's definitely a morning worth wearing sunglasses. So my plan for this morning is to paddle towards an area known as Rideau Ferry, and that means rejoining the path of the Rideau Canal where I was yesterday. And this island over on my left is Colonel By Island where I camped last night, and it's among a cluster of islands. So I'm going to work my way north up through this cluster until I rejoin the Rideau Canal. I'm finding that the passages between some of these islands are a little bit hard to get through. I've been noticing a lot of the private islands have stone walls around the water's edge. And I guess that's because this lake gets pretty wavy and windy a lot of the time. I've certainly been seeing a lot of loons on this trip. So up ahead there I can see the first other boat that I've seen this morning, and that island which is straight ahead is called Tar Island. The land which is over there to the left of it is the northern shore of Big Rideau Lake, which is technically the actual signed pathway of the Rideau Canal. But I've really been enjoying the scenery on this shoreline over here on my right, so I think I'm just going to keep on following it until it eventually narrows down and meets the northern shore. So it looks like the wind is coming from the north today, which means I'll be fighting it for the next little bit here. But when I eventually make it over there to the north shore, things should be a lot calmer. The time is now 8:05, and I paddled 4.2 kilometers so far, and I think I'm going to take a break in this sheltered cove here to have my breakfast. On the menu this morning, I've got a delicious serving of overnight oats as usual, and some orange juice to drink. So feeling all filled up and energized, I'm now ready to paddle around this point here and back into the wind. So I think I've reached the point where it seems narrow enough that I'll just paddle straight across to that sheltered north shore over there. So I've just about reached that shoreline now, and even though I've been paddling straight into the wind so far today doesn't seem to be nearly as strong as it was yesterday afternoon. But still really nice to have found this nice sheltered water to paddle through. The land which is straight ahead of me here is part of a provincial park known as Murphy's Point Provincial Park. Back on my bike tour of Eastern Ontario in September of 2019, I had originally planned on camping here at Murphy's Point, but I ultimately ended up deciding to change that plan in favor of camping at Jones Falls. Hopefully someday I'll get to camp here though. So I'm making my way up towards that narrow gap up ahead, and things are really nice and bright this morning, pretty much no clouds in the sky, and there's a look back looking over Big Rideau Lake. So here I've reached the tip of Murphy's Point, and Big Rideau Lake opens up again. So I'm now paddling on the right shore of this channel again, and as you can see, the wind is not exactly on my side at this moment, but that's okay. So I believe that island that I can see straight ahead is called Fairclough Island, and my plan is to paddle over there to the right of it where you can see those other two boats. That's the pathway that the Rideau Canal is signed for. So the time is now 10 a.m. I paddled 11 kilometers so far today, and I'm just paddling past this Fairclough Island now. So Big Rideau Lake narrows towards this end up this way, and I believe that community that I can see down there at the end of the bay is Rideau Ferry, where I'm heading to. The temperature is currently 21 degrees Celsius, and it's another beautiful blue sky day. I've certainly been noticing a lot of zebra mussels on the bottom of the lake on this trip. Zebra mussels are an invasive species that have really been taking over in the Great Lakes region. I've just paddled past an island called Ferguson Island, and up ahead there in the distance I can see the community of Rideau Ferry getting larger as I get closer. I believe the bird up at the top of that tree is an osprey. So as you can see, I'm getting closer and closer to Rideau Ferry. So up ahead I can see the big bridge which carries Rideau Ferry Road across this narrow part of the lake, and the name Rideau Ferry comes from the days before there was a bridge there and you needed to take a ferry to cross the Rideau here. It looks like I'm not the only solo canoeist out on this lake today. That guy looks like he's fishing. Rideau Ferry has quite a large harbor with many boats docked in it. And there's another look at the bridge. So just over to the left of the bridge there's a dock, and my plan is to park the canoe there so I can walk around a little bit. So I've got the canoe securely tied up there. Now to go for a walk and explore a little bit around Rideau Ferry. They've got a nice shaded seating area underneath of this bridge and lots of public docks for people to come and visit. So they have a nice display panel here with a map of the area and a little bit of history of Rideau Ferry. Apparently they operated ferry service here up until the year 1874 when the first bridge was built. So I believe there are two restaurants here in Rideau Ferry. One of them is this place here, which is called CC's on the Rideau, which unfortunately is not open on Mondays and Tuesdays, and today is a Tuesday. There's also a general store with another small restaurant behind it. That restaurant's called Jimmy's Snack Shack, and even though the time's only a little bit after 11:30, I think I'll stop here for an early lunch. So I got a nice table here with a view looking over the lake, and I ordered a gyro wrap with grape crush to drink. It tastes delicious, and of course it's always great to support a local business. I also made a stop at the general store to buy this maple flavored peanut brittle that I can enjoy later. So this map here commemorates the journey that the early settlers of the community of Perth took to get there back in 1816 when that area was first being developed. And to give you some context, we're right here right now in Rideau Ferry, and Perth is up that way, and down here this is Big Rideau Lake where I paddled across, and the route of the present day Rideau Canal comes along this way and it goes up here. But they actually came up this different way, and you can see that there are now two locks along the trail that they would have taken previously. And that's because there's actually an extra branch of the Rideau Canal which goes out this way, which is called the Tay Canal. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because my plan for the rest of today is to deviate from the Rideau Canal, and I'm hoping to camp at one of these two lock stations. And then this evening, after I've set up my campsite, I'm going to paddle up through this canal and hopefully make it as far as Perth, where I can have my dinner before paddling back to where I've left my campsite behind. So there I can see the canoe is still waiting for me where I left it. Now to get back in and paddle underneath of the big bridge and work my way over there towards Beveridges Bay. So I'm back in the water over on the other side of the bridge. The time is 12:25 and I paddled 16 kilometers so far today. So after going underneath of that bridge, I've now left Big Rideau Lake and entered Lower Rideau Lake. The Rideau Canal's path continues over that way to the end of this lake, but because I'm heading towards the Tay Canal, I'm going to follow along this shoreline here on the left. Looks like I can see a float plane docked over there. It's really such a beautiful day to be out on the water. This land over here to my left is the Rideau Ferry Yacht Club Conservation Area. Looks like they've got a nice roped off beach swimming area. So here's a look across Lower Rideau Lake. Even though it's definitely not as big as Big Rideau Lake, it's certainly not a small lake. And tomorrow I'll be paddling over that way towards the next lock station. But as I mentioned, today I'm heading into this bay over here on the left, which is called Beveridges Bay. And straight ahead there where you can see that green square and red triangle is the entrance into the Tay Canal. And just beyond there should be the lock station where I'm going to camp tonight. So there are quite a few cottages in this bay, and you can see that we're now back to the red right return convention with the channel markers because we're about to be paddling upstream on a canal. So just beyond the entrance into the canal is lock number 34, Lower Beveridges. Alright, so I've just about reached the lock now, and my plan from here is to dock the canoe over here and unload my stuff because I'm hoping that this green grass over there will be my campsite for tonight. I do plan on putting the canoe back in the water though and going through the lock without my stuff. So I've got my camping permit for the night, and my plan is to set up the tent just behind where the picnic table is. So I've now got my tent set up there, and I'm just working on getting a couple of my things organized to figure out what's going to come with me when I go for dinner and what's going to stay here. And because I didn't have an awfully big lunch, I'm just going to have a quick snack also on a cucumber. So I've now got all my stuff organized and ready to begin my journey up the Tay Canal, but it seems like the lock staff have temporarily left. The reason for that is that this lock station, Lower Beverages, uses the same set of staff members as the one that's just a little bit upstream from here, Upper Beverages. But while I wait for them, let's take an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the Tay Canal. So the Tay Canal that sits here today is actually the second Tay Canal. The original Tay Canal took the path through Port Elmsley here, which I guess was probably the natural course that the Tay River would have taken, and it included a total of, looks like 5 locks, whereas the present day one cuts across here like this. The first Tay Canal opened just a few years after the Rideau Canal, and it was privately owned and used wooden locks. Over time it proved to not be profitable, and eventually it just fell into disrepair and closed. The second Tay Canal, which is what we see here built today, was built nearly 50 years later. It's hard to believe these locks here are 50 years newer than all the others in the canal system. Apparently they ran into a lot of difficulties, and it took them 9 years to complete this project. So the time is now about 2:30, the lock staff are back, and now I'm ready to paddle inside. Alright, so here I am inside the lock, and they've closed up the gates behind me, and ready to raise me up to the higher water level. And there comes all the water. And this is actually quite a deep lock. So my GPS tells me that my total paddling distance today so far has been 19.9 kilometers. The total distance from here to Perth apparently is about 10 kilometers. So if I'm able to paddle all the way from here to there and back, then I'll definitely be setting a new record for my longest distance solo paddled in a canoe in a single day. And here you can see them opening up the lock gate for me to begin paddling up the canal. So just beyond that lock, there's a bridge to go underneath of for Port Elmsley Road. Over here through these trees, you can see the Parks Canada truck taking the staff members up to the next lock station so they can let me up through that lock next. They let me know to take my time paddling up there because they still need to reverse the position of the lock because it's currently in the high position and they need to let some water out for me to get in there, and they said that it would be pretty turbulent at the front of the lock while they're doing that. While we wait for that, notice that both sides of the canal are lined with these stone walls, and that's of course because this is a man-made canal. At least this portion of it was dug, and of course they need some way of keeping the water from eroding the banks. And the lock staff have also informed me that this lock station has a shower, so if I want to take a shower tonight I can take a walk up here and have a shower before bed. The two lock stations are only about a 5-minute walk apart. And there comes that water. So here they've opened up one of the gates of the lock, and you see that they're letting out this other boat which was inside there, and now I'll paddle inside after them. And there they are closing up the gates behind me. So this lock is called Upper Beverages, and it's lock number 33. So here's a look around the Upper Beverages lock station, and I can see that there's somebody who has a tent set up over here. Alright, so here come the gates for lock 33. I'll proceed my way through and further up the Tay Canal. And here I can see that they have some Authentics at the top of this lock station, which I guess explains why it has showers. And further ahead I can see a couple of other paddlers in this canal that I'll probably be passing pretty soon. And also notice that the canal has sedimentary rock on either side, which indicates that we've left the Canadian Shield. So I can see that this canal here, which is absolutely beautiful right now, cuts right through a marsh. You can see a turtle over there. I thought I'd be escaping the wind this afternoon, but it still seems to be against me. Did I mention the beautiful scenery? So I've now reached the point where things open up, and I'll be heading over that way to the left towards Perth, and over on the right that is the downstream flow of the river, and also where the path of the first Tay Canal would have gone through. Actually, looking down that way, you can see the dam that they built to be able to create this system. Well, I was just expecting a leisurely paddle to dinner, but this wind had different plans for me. When I decided to do this excursion, I was expecting a quiet little paddle through a narrow little canal that would be pretty easy to do, even though it was kind of far. I really wasn't expecting there to be so much wind. I'm now a little bit worried about this taking longer than expected and arriving in Perth kind of late, and then of course still having to paddle back. But I'm determined to make it there. Currently gone only 4 kilometers from where I started, so it means I have another 6 or so to go, and it's already 7 minutes until 4 o'clock. So probably won't be there until after 5:30. So I guess I'll be looking for a place that serves fast food in Perth so I can get back hopefully before it gets too dark. I do have lights with me though, in case I need them. Even though the water is relatively narrow, the fact that there's no trees because it's just a big marsh means that there's nothing to shelter the wind. So I can see an area up ahead where the canal goes through some trees, so hopefully that area will be a little bit less windy. Well, here I'm getting a little bit of a break from the wind, but it looks like I've got a bit more of it up ahead there. But I've now paddled more than halfway there, 5.4 kilometers so far. There's an old stone home here on the river that I'm paddling past. Oh, here comes another boat coming through the canal. Another break from the wind through this corridor of trees. The time is currently 4:30 and I've paddled 7 kilometers from the lock station, or 27 in total. The scenery in the Tay Canal here is really beautiful. I'm thoroughly enjoying this, despite all my complaining about the wind. I guess they want all the boaters to sound their horn because it's a blind corner here. So I'm now paddling through an area that's very well sheltered by trees, and you can see that the water is glass-like still. I can see some power lines up overhead, and I think that things should be quite a bit more civilized around this next corner. It actually looks like there's a campground over here, although I don't think it's still operating anymore because I looked into camping in Perth, but I'm pretty sure there wasn't anything available. There's a furry animal swimming in the water there. And another whistle point. So straight ahead I can see the bridge for Craig Street, and over on the left of it there are a bunch of boats docked. I'm pretty sure this is a public dock where I would be able to park. But I believe there's another public dock a little bit further along that should be closer to the downtown. There's certainly lots of paddlecraft on this land over here. It looks like they do rentals, and they also have a mini putt there. I can hear a train whistle up ahead. I can see a building over there with a big tall stack. Up ahead there's a big swing bridge across the canal, although it looks like it's just used for pedestrians these days. There you can see the mechanism for it. The next bridge up ahead is for Drummond Street, and you can also see the Perth Water Tower in the distance. And they put a fountain on the canal here, and you can also see a clock tower over there to the right. And that dock, which is straight ahead where you can see the canoes and kayaks, is where I'm planning on stopping. So my total distance for the day so far is 30.2 kilometers, and the time is now just before 5:15, so I made better time than I was expecting. So 5 minutes later and I've got the canoe locked up over here, and now I'm ready to wander over this way to the main street of Perth and find something quick to eat for dinner. As you can see, Perth is a really beautiful little town. The sort of place that I would love to spend an hour or two walking around exploring, but I just simply don't have the time today. On the bright side though, I was here just 2 years ago. Earlier in the video I mentioned a bike tour where I rode past Murphy's Point, and on that same bike tour, on that same day in fact, I stopped here in Perth for my lunch. Quite the pretty little town. So I said I wasn't going to walk around too much, but I really can't help myself. Things are just so nice here. I think I'll try this restaurant here. I chose this restaurant because I thought they would be fast, and I was right. It took them less than 5 minutes to prepare my order. I'm going to find a place to eat my lunch here in this park, which is called Stewart Park. In the video from that bike trip that I was mentioning earlier, I discovered that there was a designation for the 7 wonders of Lanark County, and in that video I stopped at a couple of them along the way. I also remember from this trip that Stewart Park here is also one of the 7 wonders of Lanark County. So it's good now to get to check another one off the list. And for dinner I ordered the fish and chips platter. Well, that was a pretty good meal and I'm feeling quite full now, but now it's time for me to get back in the canoe and paddle another 10 kilometers back to my campsite. So the time is now 6:15 and I'm back in the canoe and ready to paddle back after a nice 1 hour spent visiting the town of Perth. Hopefully the wind direction hasn't changed and I'll have it behind me as I'm making my way down the river. And of course I do also have the flow of the current, which will help me get back to where I started from. And of course I got to enjoy the same scenery that I just saw, but viewed from a different direction. This canoe and kayak rental place that I passed earlier is called Perth Outfitters, and the last hole of their mini putt is on this floating pontoon boat. So I paddled about 3 kilometers so far, and I can tell that the wind has definitely dropped since I was paddling this in the opposite direction, so I don't exactly have the wind helping me to get back to where I'm trying to get to, but I don't really mind. The calm, still water is very nice to paddle through, and also really beautiful. It's not every day that you get to go on a sunrise paddle and a sunset paddle. Well, I guess technically I wasn't actually in the water at sunrise this morning, but I did get to enjoy it from my campsite. There's that old stone house again, and beyond here, that's where the canal opens up into that big marsh, and when I get there, I'll know for sure what the wind is doing. So it looks like out here in the marshy area where it was so windy earlier, things have really calmed down quite a bit, and it's kind of good that the second half of my paddle will be through this marsh with not a whole lot of trees, because the daylight should stick around longer. So the time is currently about 7:45, and as you can see, the sun is setting behind me. It's getting pretty close down to the tree line, so it will be getting dark pretty soon. I do have another 3.5 kilometers left to paddle, so some of that probably will be in darkness, but I'm glad that once I get to the lock stations, those will be pretty well lit up because they have lots of lighting in that area, because when I get there, the lock staff are not going to be there to let me through the locks. They've already gone home. I will need to portage my canoe across those 2 locks to get to the bottom of Lower Beverages where my tent is. There's a mother loon and her baby. So straight ahead over here is where the dam is for this waterway. So I'll be taking a right turn this way and heading through the straight section of the man-made canal back to the lock stations. But before I go inside of there, here's one last look at that beautiful sunset. Well, you know what they say, red skies at night, sailor's delight. So here I've made it to the Upper Beverages lock where I'll be getting out of the canoe and portaging down to the bottom. Alright, so back in the canoe and just another 500 meters or so to paddle until I get to Lower Beverages, where my tent is. So it may be a little bit hard to see, but here I've made it back to the Lower Beverages lock station. So after portaging the canoe down to the bottom of Lock 33 where my tent is, the darkness had fully set in, so I'm glad that I didn't arrive back any later. I thoroughly enjoyed my visit to the beautiful town of Perth this evening, and I'm really glad I had the chance to include the Tay Canal on this trip as a bonus on top of the Rideau. My total paddling distance for today was 40.3 kilometers, which breaks my previous record for longest distance solo canoed in a day by quite a large margin. But I'm feeling strong and excited to tackle another day of paddling tomorrow when I'll rejoin the route of the Rideau Canal and paddle through the town of Smith Falls with the goal of making it as far as the Kilmarnock lock station. But I hope you enjoyed joining me for day number 4. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.